Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming Professions and Careers. I'm your host, Professor Greg. Today we have a special guest, TapCat. TapCat is a content creator on YouTube, and he has about 27 or 30K subscribers. And today he's going to share his story with us. Welcome, TapCat. Please introduce yourself and tell our audience who you are.
All right. Well, I am a 50-something content creator in the gaming space, which I think makes me a little unique as it is. When I'm not recording, I have a career really in accounting. That's where all my training and background was. I don't know if all that analytical work I do there helps me when I play strategy games for the channel, but that really is my focus online, is primarily strategy games, or I think the label I put on there ages ago was games that make me think. So I really enjoy that, whether it's something like Dark Souls that makes you think about how to take something down, even though it's an action-oriented game, or the game I'm probably best known for is something like XCOM, which is very strategy oriented.
That's awesome. I was very excited to have you. As you said, like, I felt that you are a very unique person, and you know, having unique people like you on the show would kind of gives encouragement to others too. Like, you know, you can, if you're passionate about gaming and you want to start putting putting out your content, you know, there's really no age limitation, right? That's how I like to look at it. So yeah, you told us about what you currently do. Can you tell us when and how did you get started on gaming?
Okay, so gaming, I was very young, so preteen. And I've always been fascinated. So first it was with tabletop games, and I got into hobby board gaming at a pretty young age. A friend of mine and I discovered these war games published by a company called Avalon Hill. So I was like 12 years old, and I'm playing games that have, inch thick rule books. And later it was Dungeons and Dragons, and later still Magic the Gathering, and all the kind of stuff, you'll hear when people talk about their history in gaming. Likewise with video games, I literally remember my parents bringing home a clone of Pong. I don't know how many years after the original Pong that came out, but so I fell in love with that. I would play games in the arcade when that was really the only way you could, home gaming wasn't really a thing yet. And I played Asteroids and Gauntlet, Defender, all these classic arcade games. So I've just fell in love with that stuff right out of the gate. Like, for as long as that existed, and I was old enough to know about it, I have followed that line. I just was always taken by games.
That's really interesting. You've been connected with it like from early on, when the industry started creating these games. That's kind of fascinating. And you have a little bit of history there. That's fun. And that's cool. So currently, right now, how often do you play games, especially that you have a full-time job and family, of course, I would guess. So how would you manage that?
Well, it varies. One disadvantage of the job I have is there's times where it's extremely demanding. And so I go through stretches where almost every waking hour is spent working, and then I don't play a lot. But on average, I play at least several days a week. I prefer doing it every day. I like recording, I like playing. So yeah, I would say I play a good 5 days a week.
And like how many hours per these 5 days would be, if you want to
That's
guess?
going to depend in part. Like, if I'm recording for the channel, Right now, I'm playing a game where the missions are really long. It's taking me about an hour and a half to record a single episode.
Uh-huh.
Other times, I may record half hour or 40-minute episodes if
Mm-hmm.
that lends itself to that particular game.
Mm-hmm.
And most weeknights in particular, I'm only going to record one episode because it's just too much to try to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So it will vary a lot. On the weekend, I'll almost always try to do 2 a day. Obviously, I have more time.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So basically your upload schedule is like daily. You do it like every day or like a few times a week.
For my last couple series, I've actually been doing every other day
Okay.
because they do kind of have longer like the one I'm doing now, like I say, at an hour and a half, and then I have to edit it. And I can't record every day. So the only way I feel I can realistically keep up is if I do it every other day. But
Mm-hmm.
historically, for a long time, I would do every day.
Mm, I see. I see. And how much time do you spend on editing?
It depends again on what I'm doing. So, assuming now, by the way, I'm only talking about Let's Plays. I do guides for my channel and stuff like that. Those are
Mm-hmm.
completely different. I'll spend anywhere from 15, 20 hours on one video.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reason I don't do that very often because it takes a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
I will usually put, like last night, I was doing audio editing for a good while,
Mm-hmm.
probably close to 40 minutes.
Mm,
And then another probably half hour or more on the video portion and stitching it all together.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really try to put out the best quality videos that I can. I
Yeah.
don't just record, let it rip, and then upload.
Mm-hmm. I see. I see. That's a lot of commitment. It is, I think. And that's really good. I mean, these things has definitely helped growing your channel to where it is now, with that many subscribers. And for our audience who are listening, these are all learning points. So right now, I don't think like gaming is your full-time career, but are you considering to, let's say, if your channel grows, have you ever thought about like quitting your full-time job and making gaming as your full-time career, or do you see yourself in that position in the future?
I have certainly thought about it. I think in this day and age, like pretty much anyone who's in this space probably has at least toyed with that idea, right? Because you see it so much now. When
Mhm,
I started the channel, that was not even a glimmer of a thought for me. But
mhm,
anyway, what makes it difficult is because I am well established in a career and I make pretty good money, it's very difficult to say, well, I'm just going to throw that income away because hey, I'm making a fraction of that now on YouTube. And
mhm.
surely I can grow this by like 30 times or whatever it would come out to.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a challenge. It is
Yes, I
something I would
understand.
definitely consider, but I would have to really, really amp it up in terms of views and revenue and stuff like that.
Yeah, I that 100% makes sense. Um, so who inspires you? Do you follow any particular person on YouTube or Twitch that, from whom you get ideas or they inspire you?
Interesting. Yeah. One guy I like a lot, and he's not in the gaming space, but his channel name is Mr. Mobile.
Mhm,
His name's Michael Fisher, and he does cell phone, laptop, that kind of technology stuff. Uh, One, I really like his personality. He's low key. I am personally pretty low key on my channel. I'm not one of these guys who's trying to overwhelm you with this big bombastic personality. So
mhm,
but also I have a lot of respect for him in terms of how he he manages the technical aspects of putting together a video. And I
Mhm.
have literally at times studied like his transitions and stuff like that to try to make my videos better. In the gaming space, I have a lot of respect for Skill Up. He does these really good scripted reviews of games. You know, they tend to be very long, very detailed, but he's another guy who's just very thoughtful in his approach to things, and that
Mhm.
resonates with me quite a lot. And I had another one in my head. Let me think for just one quick second. Wolf Den, right?
Mm.
Um, that's another gaming channel, and he's quite good. So that's probably more than enough
Yeah,
to answer for now.
absolutely. That's interesting that you're also getting, you know, for at least editing purposes, you're getting insights from other people who create content and non-gaming domain. That's interesting.
Right.
So we talked about that. We talked about ours. Now let's talk a little bit about your insights about uh, gaming as a career. So you've been creating content for a while. You didn't tell us like when did you start creating videos on YouTube?
Yeah, I started 9 years ago, and
Okay.
I was really moved to do that when a game called XCOM Enemy Unknown came out. I fell in love with the game, but I was really bad at it. And so I started looking for anything I could learn from. And that's
Mhm.
really when I discovered Let's Plays. I didn't know that that existed in the world. And watching some of those, that's kind of what helped inspire me, you know, to
Mhm.
share my experiences playing.
Mhm.
And so there was a whole process of, you know, first I discovered people like the late Total Biscuit, who was so polished and he was so good. I literally felt like, who would watch me if they could watch him? And so he was kind of inspiring in the wrong way, if that makes sense. But then later I found guys that I felt like I don't know how to say it. They were more relatable to me in the sense that they didn't seem like super polished broadcaster types, you know? They were like
Mhm.
me. They were guys who just really enjoyed playing these games, but they had established a following. And, you know, it gave me actual hope. Like, hey, if they could do it, maybe I could do it too. So it took me a while to get over that hump, but I went ahead and dived in. And so I played XCOM Enemy Unknown on my channel very, very badly. But I slowly got better. So, you know, there's that.
Interesting. So, yeah. So, I mean, looking at the people with, you know, big channels with a lot of audience, let's say 100K, 200K, or maybe a million,
Mm-hmm.
or more. Sometimes, I mean, it could be both inspiring and intimidating at the same time, in a sense that you'll be like, okay, I'll never be like this person. Or on the other hand, I want to be like this person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think I'm kind of picking this up from the other stories too. We had different audiences with their own story. Like you have your unique personality and your unique content, and definitely there are people out there who are interested in you, the way that you are and the way you make your content. So, and you just have to keep doing it until you find your own community. um, and that's a good message, I think, especially for people who want to get started. You have to build and find your own community. So let's get back to different aspects of gaming as a career. So you've been doing this for 9 years. You got quite a lot of experience in that zone. So would you think like gaming um, would survive as a viable career? Like, do you see that the people who are turning into becoming gamers and gaming content creators, would you see that it is going to be recognized as a career? Um,
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, other people can choose to recognize it or not. It is a career. It's
Okay.
right. There's a whole bunch of careers. You can be a developer, you can be a critic, you can go on YouTube and play or
Yeah.
comment. Like, this is real and it is happening. So some people do it full time, some are like me and it's part time. But whether other people want to pull their head out of the sand and realize that this is real, that's up to them. I think the bigger challenge is maybe, for an individual, is it sustainable over the long haul? And I
Hmm.
do think it's very likely you might have to do some pivots along the way. Like when I started Let's Play series of long form videos, that was very popular on YouTube. I think
Hmm.
that's come down a fair amount. And so if you were starting today, I don't know that that's what I would tell you to do. You might want to think about something else. But as long as you're willing to and want to be flexible
Hmm.
about exactly how you're approaching gaming and what you want that career to be,
Hmm.
yeah, I think there's just no question it's a career. It's actually
Interesting.
many different careers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So people could engage with the industry in a very different ways. It's very important. And um, you raised an important point that, you know, people might need to pivot a little bit. Of course, any career can change. For content creators, yes. I also believe that it's happening. And one of the goals of this podcast is to raise awareness about it. So, and here we are. Thank you for sharing your insights. So, now let's talk a little bit about the social aspect of gaming. So, um, do you go around and tell people that you create gaming content on YouTube, like your friends at work, or this is something that you have kept as a secret?
It's kind of in the middle. So at work, I do not talk about it at all.
Okay.
I keep that separate.
Okay.
And I do that for a whole variety of reasons. Just like online, I will refer to my job or something, but I don't say I work at this company. Here's our phone number. I want to try to keep those worlds separate to the extent I can.
Mm-hmm.
But my family knows. The reaction varies a ton. The younger people, especially, they think it's really cool. But even my sisters, who are slightly older than I am, they all think it's really neat. So I haven't really gotten negative reactions.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, when she was still like, she just didn't even understand what I was saying. I talked about having a YouTube channel and like, yeah, I play games and comment, or I'll try to teach people how to play the game. She just couldn't wrap her mind around what that was, which
Yeah.
is, fair enough. She'd never
Yeah.
really even watched YouTube or anything. Um, but yeah, for me, honestly, to the extent that I talk about it with people, it's really only been a positive. I can't remember one negative interaction.
That's really good. That's really good. And like, do you think it has affected your social circle? Like when you talk to your friends about it? I mean, other than the family, like the friends out there that you go out with, um, or other things.
Honestly, no.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was a nerd before that word was considered almost a weird compliment. I used to sit like in a fast food restaurant reading comic books that I bought every Wednesday. And that was before superhero movies and before that was cool. And
Hmm.
yeah, like when I was growing up, I was playing video games, but most of my friends weren't playing video games.
Hmm.
So I kind of lived through the time when it wasn't cool. And I don't know if that just helped me build up radar about who to talk to about it or who not to talk to about it.
Yeah.
But nowadays, again, like there's people that I just know that, like my boss at work, she would have no idea what I was even talking about if I started getting into a gaming conversation with her, because that's
Yeah.
just not a space she lives in.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But no, pretty much anybody that I've talked to or would share that with, it's not really, to the extent it's anything, it's a plus for them. They think it's cool.
Interesting. It's very interesting. So, do you have any interesting story that you want to tell us about, anything interesting that happened to you in these 9 years as you were, putting out content?
Oh my God. Um,
Tell us one
okay.
of the fun stories.
I see the pressure. I don't think I do, honestly. I don't know that there's one moment that jumps out at me or one particular story.
Uh-huh.
Um, I guess I will say, this was pretty cool. So just very recently, I got invited to an event. Firaxis, the company that develops XCOM and some other games that I've played a lot on the channel, they're coming out with a new game based on Marvel superheroes called Midnight Suns.
Mhm.
And I got invited to go to the developer studio for a hands-on play session. That's the first time I've ever gotten something of that magnitude before.
Mhm.
And while I was there, I got to meet another YouTuber. Christopher Odd is his channel. Super nice guy. And it was so great to just meet someone else in the space. One thing, we kind of were just talking about the social aspect. One thing that I really do miss is I never get to talk to another person who does this. And
Mm.
so, to have a chance to just talk a little bit about what it's like to have a channel and talk a little bit, because he and I even play some of the same games and stuff. So that was a lot of fun for me and just a great experience overall.
Yeah, that's really great for for your side hustle career, I think. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that's really great. I mean, if you're invited, that means you are on their radar, they're recognizing you and your channel, and they like you. That's really good. That's really great. I'm glad for you, my friend. That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about the physical challenges or health or mental slash wellness challenges that you have faced. Do you feel that, you know, uh, do you feel like playing video games for a few hours per day has affected your health positively or negatively? Has it affected your mental health? Has it affected your physical well-being, or no? Like in positive or negative way?
Right. So let me start with mental because I think that's easier. For
Mhm,
me, it's a huge boost mentally.
mhm,
I'll come home from just a brutal day at work, and playing something that I really love just washes all that away. And
mhm.
it really helps me, like it energizes me and it just puts me in a completely different mind space that I find really beneficial. Now, it can be pretty detrimental to having much of a social life and interacting, with the other people in your life. So that's one element. But for me, it really is a big positive. Physically, there's definitely been times where I would just kind of turn myself into a couch potato playing games every minute that I could. And so that is not a particularly healthy way to live, particularly when you have a desk job like I do.
Mhm.
Um, so what I try to do now is bring a little bit more balance to it. I walk 5 to 6 miles a day. On the weekends, I get out for bike rides. I do pretty long rides. Like for me, 30, 40 miles is a nice sweet spot, but I have gone as far as 100 miles on one ride. So that will help keep you fit, um, and offset some of those hours sitting in front of the monitor.
That's really awesome. I think I think you're one of the very few people that we have talked to who actually has a plan or devised a plan to take care of their physical body too. So often, the people who are creating content, especially early on, they get overwhelmed by, the sheer pressure of creating content on certain times and putting it out. But I mean, that's really awesome. Like 5, 6 miles a day, exercising, and doing this frequently, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. That's how it should be. And I really encourage people to think about it. If you're an audience, I know I have a friend who always tells me, like, if you take care of your body, your brain can work double. Like, if you have to finish a job in 2 hours, you'll finish it in 1 hour, and then you'll have more time. You can get
Mm.
more done when you take care of your body physically and mentally. And I mean, of course, I totally understand, like, this having a hard job, accounting is difficult. Like, I would assume you're dealing with taxes, since you said, like, there are certain times that you're very busy, maybe. So I mean, that's a very difficult job, of course. And basically, you know playing video games could be your escape pod from getting away from that day-to-day tasks that are very difficult. And it's, as you said, it can boost your um, mind or give you energy. That's really, I think that's how it should be. That's how it should be. I really like that part. So I mean, that's awesome that you're taking care of yourself. That's awesome. We talked about that. And now let's talk about a little bit about the financial availability. So right now, I know, and I put it out there, I mean, our audience understand, because based on the conversations we had with the previous guests, they kind of understand, like, uh, you know, making money depends on the number of videos that you put out, the number of subscribers, the number of watch times, and there are too many factors in there. But for you, for your channel, if you could share with us, like, how much do you make roughly per week? um
Yeah. So I average several hundred a month. So I guess that would be roughly 100 a week.
mhm,
There are, as you said, there are a lot of factors that go into it. So part of it is under your control, like how many videos do you publish, or if you stream, how much time do you spend streaming, that kind of thing, what game you cover. But there are also just highs and lows in the world. Like when the pandemic hit, you saw viewership across virtually every channel spike. I was literally on a break from YouTube at that point, so I was not uploading at all. And if I look at my analytics page, like you'll see this enormous spike during that period of time. So even somebody who wasn't even uploading, there was this enormous surge. So you do have to be careful, like when you're trying to make decisions, that you're not just being lifted by this rising tide that will inevitably go back down,
yeah.
because these things do go in cycles. But yeah, so for me, it's in that range. It can be probably as little as half that, and it can be at least 50% more than that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it varies a lot, but in recent months, that's where I've been.
Mhm. That's that's good. I mean, that's good. And thank you for sharing your numbers with us. That definitely helps. Again, the type of questions I ask, I have in mind that, like, let's say maybe there are a few people and among the audience who are considering starting their own unique channel, finding their own niche. This gives them some insights, what they should expect with, let's say, 30K subscribers, or the number of videos they put out. So I mean, it helps. So do you also stream? And do you also stream or no?
I occasionally do live streams on my
Okay.
YouTube channel, but I don't do anything on Twitch.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I started live streaming last year at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I would say live stream Q&As are probably the favorite, thing that I've done for my audience. But I also will do gameplay at times. I'll try out a new game on stream, and there's some people who show up for that. So yeah, it's not the cornerstone of what I do, but I am experimenting with it.
Mm-hmm. I see. um and so these are like a couple of final wrap up questions that we ask our audience. looking back, would you do what you did with your YouTube channel? Like, would you start creating content? Would you do it again if you go back?
Yeah, I don't have any regrets. It is a big commitment. I will say that. I mean, I guess I should say it's as big as you want to make it. But when you start a YouTube channel, a lot of people will upload one or two videos and then they don't get 100,000 views or something. They may not get 100 views and
Mhm.
they're done. They're out. And listen, I went through my period where I uploaded videos and I get like 5 views. And the reality is they weren't that good. And I needed to get better and I needed to make videos that people want to watch.
Mhm.
And over time, I managed to build a following. But I had the resolve to stick to it, partly because I enjoyed doing it. And I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, listen, I would absolutely do it again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, among all the audience that we've talked to, when I asked these questions, like I think 100% of them said they had no regrets. I think it's gets back to their passion, right? And that's good. I mean, we're
Well,
glad that you don't have regrets.
and let me follow up. I think you might get a different answer if you talked to people who no longer do it, right? Like you're talking
Yeah,
to people who are actively still engaged. So if I
yeah.
were bitterly regretting my choice of never starting the channel, I probably wouldn't still be doing it. But there are, like, for example, there was a channel, one of the people who inspired me to get into this in the first place,
Mhm.
his channel is gone from YouTube now. It's not just that he stopped uploading, he deleted it, the whole thing. He
Ouch.
deleted his Twitch channel. I don't know why, I don't have any personal connection to him or anything. But
Mhm.
if you found him and asked him, do you regret starting the channel? I don't know, but my guess is yes, because something not only drove him to stop, but to take all that down and remove it, completely. So
Yeah.
something happened to him that made him think, I don't want anything to do with this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I hope he's alive, but sometimes like when people pass away, the YouTube and Facebook and all of them, they get locked down or removed or things like that would happen. But yeah, or maybe he just had regrets. He deleted the channel,
Right.
but maybe I should revise this question and I should stop asking it because like the people who are coming, and actually, yes, we invite people who are actively producing content. Like I would definitely check and try to see whether they're consistent, whether they put out content. And yes, I guess these audience that they are passionate. And as you said, if I ask people who had ups and downs or maybe they're not active, I would get a different answer. That's right. Thank you for that
Maybe. I don't
advice.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to be Debbie Downer here towards the end.
That no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's very good. I like that. And I mean what you said, what you raised was a comment that you know, which is valid.
Mhm.
It's very valid. So the last question for you, it could be tough, but what is the most important advice for people who, like you, want to start creating content on YouTube, or maybe they want to pursue gaming as a career, like gaming content creation as a career?
Okay, so I feel like there's so many pieces of advice you could give somebody that it's almost overwhelming, but I will go with the lesson that it took me a very, very long time to get to, even though it's really pretty obvious. And I think I'd even heard it before. But okay, so I'm going to do this in the form of a bit of a story. One of the things people used to say to me all the time in my comments is that they like my voice. And that's great. But I tried to lean into that and think, how can I make it more polished? And it was all about trying to showcase that. And what I realized at some point is that as I was polishing and trying to be more professional, what I was kind of sanding away was me, was my personality. And maybe it isn't really about the voice. Maybe it's about trying to be more of myself when I'm making a video and getting that across to people. And some people won't like that. They like, anytime you make something more specific, there will be people who respond negatively. That's fine. They're not really going to be my audience, right? But the people who do respond to that will respond in a more strongly positive way than they will to generic good voice guy. Okay. So be yourself is something you'll hear all the time, but I can't emphasize enough that if you like to joke around, find some way to get that in. Or if you're kind of sarcastic or whatever it is, if you're analytical, like that's one thing I've always had in my videos. I tend to be a very analytical person. And so when I play, I'm breaking down what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and all that. So that's always been there. But one of the reasons I decided to go on camera last year, for 8 years, I was not on camera. And I wanted to try to get a little bit more of myself in there. And one thing I didn't even anticipate is once I started going on camera, that also meant my cat sometimes is on camera. He'll come on my lap or something like that. People love him. But also being a cat dad is kind of a big part of my life and my personality. So now I'm bringing that to the channel. So everybody's different. I'm, not trying to tell people to copy what I've done. It isn't necessarily about going on camera or not. Like, that's totally up to you. But I am saying you want to try to be expressive in a genuine way. You want to try to bring as much of yourself into the content you create that you reasonably can, based on whatever it is you're doing. So that would probably be my number one thing. There's so many things that we could talk about just in terms of, running a channel and all that stuff. But was kind of the latest really big lesson, as simple as it is, that I finally internalized and have been bringing to my channel over the last however many months now.
Be yourself. That's a very good advice.
So yeah, and definitely never try to imitate somebody else. When we talked about people who inspire me, one thing I purposely don't do is watch people who do the same thing or a similar type of video. I don't want to see what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to do an XCOM guide, I don't watch other XCOM guides because I want to do my guide to the game and not a revised version of what someone else did. And once I start watching them, that's going to get in my head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now I have this template in my head of what a video of that type looks like. I would much rather think of it from my own perspective and create that. Genuinely create, not recreate what someone else has done. So I know everybody's different. I'm sure there are people who love to watch other stuff and they draw inspiration from it and they're able to do that in a positive way. But for me, what works best is I mostly avoid people who do something a little too close to what I do. So there's two pieces.
Good advice. Yeah. Like, do not imitate people. Do not copy. I 100% agree. Well, I do also follow other, like, in the influencers world or zone. I do see that a lot. Like, influencers imitate each other or copy each other's work all the time, and sometimes people would pick it up, sometimes people won't. But I think, and these influencers who are not very creative with their own content, I also see one problem with them is that they are not growing as fast as they could. Even though if they would put, set aside a time, think about genuine ideas create
Mm-hmm.
content based on that, it would have helped them a lot more in growing, instead of just imitating. Well, I haven't seen that. You probably it exists, as you mentioned, like in the like gaming content create, among the gamers who create content. I haven't picked it up. Maybe I don't follow a lot of content creators, but in the influencers world, I do see that often, like imitating. Again, great advice. Be genuine, do not imitate. Be yourself, do not imitate. That's great. um TapCat, thank you so much for joining this podcast and participating, sharing your insights and story. um I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure your audience would also learn a little bit more about you if you share this podcast with them, this episode with them. um and thank you all for listening. um you are you listen to Gaming Professions and Careers. This episode will be released on all major podcasting platforms and also on my YouTube channel, Professor Greek. Thank you for listening and stay tuned. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.